At Your Instep is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome back to our Core Set 2019 set review. Last we left off, we were talking about black, and now we're going to move on to red. So, who's going to take the first card for red?
Well, I'm the one sitting close to Mike, so I'll take it. This is Alpine Moon. This is a single red for an enchantment. It says, as Alpine Moon enters the battlefield, choose a non-basic land card name. Lands your opponent's control with the chosen name lose all land types and abilities, and they gain tap, add 1 mana of any color. So I think that we talked about this card a little bit when it was spoiled before. It is definitely interesting and possibly useful in a number of places. I think that the place you'll see this mostly in Modern, I think, but it has standard applications. We still have all the flip lands, including Search for Iskanta, so it's not like it couldn't see play in Standard. But Modern, when you think of Modern, you think of things like Tron, for example, that this really has a chance to break up a little bit. And decks that can't always play Blood Moon, like Jeskai, for example, can play this card safely. So I think it definitely has a slot.
Yeah. So, a couple things with this. In Standard, do you think it's worth it for the red decks to play this to combat Argo's Bloodfast, or I guess Temple of Aklazatz?
I don't think so. I think that while we have seen some high-profile games in the last few weeks, we've seen players who have kept an Argo's Bloodfast and have been able to dig back with games with that.
Right.
That still is not a common play pattern.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, we've seen... It doesn't...
The card is...
You wouldn't think it'd be good, but it actually is... That's kind of like their game plan.
It's certainly serviceable, but I don't think that it's worth bringing a card because there are plenty of games where it is a very dead card.
Right.
So...
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I just wanted to see what you guys thought of that.
It's nice to have the option.
Yeah. And like you said, with Modern, I think, decks that can't play Blood Moon definitely won't want this. So Jeskai, various Grixis decks, like Grixis Control, you can play something like Field of Ruin along with this on the board to kind of fight Tron decks, which has always been a huge issue for those style of decks. Red-Green Eldrazi, which isn't really a deck anymore, but could play something like this where Blood Moon is not a card you want to play since it shuts off like your whole deck. But this, you could specifically target, certain things, Tron lands or what have you.
Or Valakut. You can also just name Valakut.
Exactly. So I think, I think the response always to people that play decks that I guess you would think would lose to Blood Moon. So I guess we'll just say Tron, right? They play things like Nature's Claim in the board. And it's like, well, this just turns on their Nature's Claims. Well, and the problem with Blood Moon against those style of decks is like, okay, well, you need to have Blood Moon and you need to pressure them. This being only 1 mana really allows you to, really kind of execute your own game plan. You don't have to spend a whole turn playing this, you know what I mean? Like you can,
So you can, theoretically you can play it early against those decks and just name like a Tron piece. It doesn't even have to be like a piece they've shown you that they have, and like, all right, then I don't have to necessarily dodge a Nature's Claim because they don't have it out, and I don't have to like do that. And then you can play it on turn 3 for 1 mana, and then hold up a counter spell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, do I think this is like the end all be all, like Tron Killer? No, but I do think it has a place because decks that can't necessarily play Blood Moon can definitely play this card, and it can be effective. And especially if it's in, if you also have Field of Ruins or you also have Spreading Seas, it's just more things to disrupt, big mana or Valakut or what have you. So I think it's a cool card. I mean, I could kind of see it either way. I could see it being really good, or I could see it just not being that effective. But
do you think it has a chance to see any sort of legacy play? And I only mention this because it says lands your opponent's control. So, for example, you could name Wasteland in your Wasteland which is not true of something like Blood Moon.
I don't know. I mean, I don't play enough Legacy to know.
I think about like the Grixis Delver decks that only run duels in Wastelands, and Wasteland is how you win those games. You land this against them, and Now you can wasteland them, but they're never gonna mess with you. So it's probably not worth a card.
Yeah,
I think I think it's interesting.
That's the thing. It's like you still have to spend a card to do that,
and you have to have it at the right time. I agree. Yeah. Because it says only your opponents. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is also if you went back to Red Green Tron players could play it against each other.
Very true. Jeskai players can play it against each other and name Celestial Colonnade.
That's also true.
Or Field of Ruin, or something like that.
Yep. You can also name fetch lands if you wanted to, but I don't. I don't think that's very good. But I don't know.
It definitely has weird applications. And I think like it is more of a surgical card than Blood Moon, obviously, and I think that's to its benefit. I think that a lot of people are going to like this card. I think it has a good chance of not being like a flash in the pan, like some of the other sort of cards that we've seen that have a lot of modern implications tied into them.
Yeah. To be clear, like we're kind of saying like different things that you can do. I wouldn't advise doing some of these things. Like hitting a man land, probably not that good, not a good use of it. But like against, I think Tron and Valakut are like the two most obvious ones.
Yeah.
Maybe Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah.
Even though you got to have this early, or else they're already gonna get their value off their Eldrazi Temples.
Something like for specifically all these cases for Jeskai, because that just seems like the most obvious plant. But even naming something like Caverner's Souls could be super important.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Again, Dark Depths and Legacy.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Even something like you could probably really, really mess with Amulet Titan with a card like this.
Oh, you name the blue-green bounce land.
Yeah,
that's very
but or just like the way that they can combo kill you. You name what's the Slayer Stronghold or something like that. This card has a lot of applications that
it just has to be worth the slot.
Because
of how situational it is when you draw it.
So it's just going to be one of those sideboard cards that varies in power that you have in sometimes and have in some tournaments and don't have in other ones.
That's fair.
But I like it. Also, it's very important that this is Innistrad. They're showing you Innistrad, and this is, I think, after all of the shadows of Innistrad stuff.
Because it's something Tamio who's also talking, and she was researching the moon.
Yeah, and if you notice, the moon is taking all the mana away from these forested mountains because Emrakul's in it. So
is that what it's doing?
That's an interesting implication of how Emrakul's messing with that moon.
Yeah. I appreciate that this card exists.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
All right, next up.
All right. Apex of Power? Are we doing this?
Let's talk about it.
Apex of Power. 7 red sorcery. 10 mana. It says, exile the top 7 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards exiled this way. If this spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color.
Found a way to cast Omniscience.
Yep.
Here's the thing. We talked about how a ramp deck for Omniscience doesn't really work because you don't have anything to do afterwards. But if you ramp into this, you probably have things to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying LC play. Generally, I only make mention of these cards because every single one of these kinds of cards that we've seen get printed in these sets, I think of like Omniscience or Enter the Infinite or anything like this, they invariably seem to show up doing something incredibly broken in old formats. So
this one has a built-in safeguard where it's you only get the mana if you cast it from your hand.
Yeah, it still depends on what you're doing though. It may not matter.
Is there a way to cheat this out? I'm trying to think.
Yes, in Standard there is. Again, you would oh man, actually I wonder if that works. The 1/4 creature that has Afflict, and if it is unblocked, I think it says you can cast a spell from your hand.
Yeah. That works.
Oh!
Don't be tempted by the dark side.
Got the splits.
Yep.
You let MTG Goldfish figure that one out.
What could you possibly have? I'll cast Apex of Power. Say what?
Say excuse me?
Yeah, cast it for free, but since it's from your hand, you still get the mana.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
You also so to be fair, you add 10 color mana, but it would be in your combat steps, so it doesn't stay throughout the turn. But you know who is in Standard right now, who hasn't seen any play yet, but makes a bunch of mana that doesn't leave until the end of turn? Rada.
Yeah.
Give me some Rada rap. Show me that apex of power, Rada. You could do it. Now, again, I don't think this is probably a standard card, but I think that I will not be surprised when this card is doing something obscene on camera in Legacy. So, I also think it's very, very cool though, because we had a bunch of cards depicting Bolas at different points. Like patient rebuilding, we talked about that. Mm-hmm. We skipped over a black card because it wasn't very good, but that showed like the downfall of him losing his omniscience. And then here, this is at the height when he can just build whatever he wants, and he's got the Talon gates and his own little plane and everything else.
Yeah, it's a Bolas meditation plane.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet.
So he does yoga.
I also like that they made a really perverse like biblical like quote here, "As I desire, so it shall be." Like, as it is written, so shall it be. That's really close, but fair enough. Bolas makes his own scripture.
Well, so. I mean, you don't call yourself the God Pharaoh and not like
make your own like Bible. Yeah,
yeah. Come on,
I get it. And Bolas went full Old Testament. Like, let's be honest. All right, we don't talk too much more about it. I just think like again, it's a card that'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Unlike other red mythics like that we saw that were like, oh, like this one says, okay, this is powerful enough that someone will try to make it do something. Next up, we have Banefire, which is a pretty flavorful reprint based on what we're seeing in this set. Banefire is red X.
You can do it in the Bane voice.
Banefire is red X. It's a sorcery. It deals X damage to any target. If X is 5 or more, the spell can't be countered, the damage can't be prevented. Much like your destruction, Batman.
The fire rises.
The fire can be uncounterable depending on how much mana you pay into X, but it's entirely up to you. You were merely born in the fire. No, I was born in the fire.
If
you were molded by the fire, that's not... I'm sorry.
You're probably like a sword or something.
So, now, Dave, I don't actually know because I wasn't around when Banefire was first printed, but did Banefire see standard play when it was first printed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably played more Demon Fires, which is a similar card that had
the Hellbent.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Banefire saw some play. I don't remember that much, but
I feel like the uncounterable clause is actually fairly important in our current standard environment. Yeah, if you remember back, we had what was the spell mastery burn spell? I can't remember off the top of my head. Dealt 4 damage.
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you talking about Exquisite Firecraft?
Yeah, Exquisite
the
Firecraft.
one that sees Legacy play.
That card is seeing that card's like expensive a little bit. Like it's seeing modern play and stuff too out of burn because
sideboard burn card.
That's the card you use as the finisher. And Banefire is that card that you can just finish off either a planeswalker or a player with it. I made the mention of like Rada, for example, for Apex of Power, but this is a more likely card I think you'd see in a deck like that just wants to finish you off with something that can't be countered. Now, it is awkward. We still have Commit, for example, so they have ways to interact with this in Standard right now, but I think like that uncounterable clause is important.
Yeah, I didn't really think too much about this card when I first saw it.
It's just a red X spell, so you probably wouldn't.
Right, but I did read, so Owen Turnwald's article today talked about this a little bit. And
sorry, we always push premium articles.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Well, I'm just going to bring up a good point that he made where it's like the blue-white control decks use Settle the Wreckage to kind of like, stabilize the board,
Right.
And a lot of things that we're seeing now in Standard are, Fight with Fire is a card that's brought in against those decks to, hit Lyra, but can also be kicked like a good amount of the time.
As we saw in the finals of GP Pittsburgh.
Right. Now, that can be countered. This can't. So, I mean, you can bring this in a similar fashion. Maybe it's only one. Maybe you have one in the board, whatever. But it's always something that you're drawing to that, like, they have very few answers to do. And as you know, like, a lot of these blue-white decks, like, they don't really have the kill conditions. Some of them are just playing Teferis,
You're going to get there.
Right. So I think it's something that like this card could actually change the way certain matchups go, or I guess specifically against like blue-white control, because now they have to account for this being like an out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
So
I say it's flavorful because Banefire is Sarkin, literally doing this. So, but yeah, I think this card is going to definitely see play, and again, like adding that clause to a burn spell really sort of changes how, as you said, people have to prepare for the format.
Yeah, and maybe this is just a sideboard card. Maybe if there's some weird combo deck that comes out that generates a lot of mana, this could be like the kill condition since it can't be countered. We've seen like things like that Caravec's Torch way back in the day, like 20 years ago was kind of the thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. All right, cool. Next card's also sweet.
So the next card we have is Dark Dweller Oracle. So this is generic in red, 2/2 Goblin Shaman. It's a rare. It has an ability of pay 1, sacrifice a creature to exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Then it has a reminder text saying, yeah, you can even play lands, yep. Because it does say you can play the card, not cast the card.
Yes.
Which we've seen in a couple different genres have had some different wordings.
Versus like Vance's Blasting Cannons, which you only says
Cast,
right.
or Apex of Power.
Yeah, also true.
Yeah. So this one, you can reveal lands and play them off of this, which is actually a huge upside. There's a huge difference between, like you said, Vance's Blasting Cannons and something like Outpost Siege.
Oh yeah. And trust me, I've played them both.
Yeah.
One feels a lot better than the other.
Yeah.
Outpost Siege, great magic card.
Now,
R.I.P. AP.
This is a goblin. Goblins is. I feel like it's close. Maybe not fully there. Maybe it's there after this.
It's getting closer for sure.
Yeah. Though you don't necessarily need to play this in a goblin deck for it to be good. You're probably going to want some some more bodies to sacrifice. But we get some other cards in this set as well that can provide that for you if you want.
So there's the enchantment that hasn't seen a lot of play recently. That's black-white though, Sito Mardu. But the one where every time you have Revolt at the end of your turn, you get a 1/1 servo.
Hidden Stockpile.
Yeah. So you need to trigger Revolt to get another one. So you sack the servo to this to get a card to cast, and then get a servo at the end of the turn. Yeah, I want it.
That's cool.
I mean, again, it's probably not possible. It's three colors, but man, it sounds real.
It's pretty
sweet.
dirty, and you have to rely on tokens surviving in a world of chain whirlers.
I mean, yeah, but it's only one. And then somebody else needs to trigger Revolt. It's all great.
Yeah. But I like this card a lot. I think it's sweet.
Yeah, I think
2/2 for 2
this is a really
fine.
cool red card. I like when they are able to find space for red to do something a little bit different, and this is cool.
Yeah,
and powerful.
Also in limited, we have Act of Treason. It's back.
Yeah,
should be in every set. Really.
Yeah, red black sacrifices the limited theme for M19.
Yeah, that's why you had Reassembling Skeleton. You also have the Harpy in black. That's the flyer that you can sack.
Reassembling Skeleton with this.
Yeah, also pretty sweet.
It's what we call combo, boys.
Probably not constructive playable. It's a little mana intensive.
Why aren't you uncommon? I want you in Dave's Cube.
A little early. Yeah, this is the red black sacrifice payoff you want for that archetype, unfortunately.
Next up, we have Demanding Dragon. Now, I think this card, when I first looked at it, I went past it, but for the same reason I mentioned Banefire, I want to mention this card. So it's 3 generic, red for a 5/5 creature dragon. It has flying. It says when it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that player sacrifices a creature. So there's literally an entire archetype in Standard right now that doesn't play creatures. That this just says, take 5. Which is, I think, kind of interesting. And then post-board, a lot of the times the only creature they do have, Lyra Dawnbringer. So, this is kind of interesting. 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer is not great, though it's better than Bone Dragon, so
yeah,
take that.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of ancillary tokens that could be sacrificed right now, which makes this card maybe not that great. But I think there are situations and archetypes against where this card is probably surprisingly good, where it survives things like Cut, for example. It can't be Fatal Pushed, and it has a irrelevant ability when it comes into play, which a lot of the dragons, that's been always kind of their problem, right? They don't have an ETB, even Glorybringer, for example, as good as it's been, remove spell before it does anything else. This still gets its trigger, so.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. On
the
other hand,
that makes it good enough.
Yeah, on the other hand, the Punisher mechanic has never proven to be great.
Absolutely.
Also, Glorybringer kind of takes up that space, I think, in those types of decks right now. So as long as Glorybringer's around, I think this one's going to be on the sideline. Though, I think it's something to keep in mind for the future. 5/5 flyer for 5 is reasonable, and it does something.
Not to be forgotten. It definitely could be relevant in the future, but man, Glorybringer just too good. It's too strong right now.
Yeah, again, I only mentioned it because there was an archetype that doesn't play creatures that would have to take 5, but it's probably not good enough.
Yet.
All right. Next card. This is kind of a weird one. It's a rare. Dismissive Pyromancer. It's a generic and a red for a 2/2. Where have we heard this before? It's a human wizard. Relevant. Has 2 abilities. So it has red, tap, discard a card, draw a card.
Rummage.
So it has the rummage. Yep. And then it has 2 and a red, tap, sacrifice, sacrifice, dismissive Pyromancer.
Not submissive pyromancer. Yeah, that's a different card.
Yeah. That's
Whatever you say.
Maybe in different color. Yeah.
What did you want me to burn?
It deals 4 damage to target creature. This is an awesome limited card. It's like selection and removal all in one. I don't know about this one for constructed. Yeah, I think it's cool.
I'm not sure either. It's got a lot of abilities.
Yeah.
And it being a 2-drop makes it, I think, a little bit easier to stomach. I think that it also having a built-in removal spell makes it kind of sweet. So maybe it's not good enough because you don't get to untap with it very often, but
I feel like this should be an uncommon. It'd be a good uncommon, but
it'd be pretty good.
Maybe I'm just used to like all those sweet Dominaria uncommons that like feel like they're rare.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah.
I do the flavor text here. This is a guy going through a library, and it's like burn, keep burn. The GIF I had sent you guys. Have you ever seen History of the World Part 1 of Madeline Kahn, who is trying to pick out what lover she'll be with that night? So she's like, yes, or like, no, yes, no, yes, and it's choice. It's very good.
I think this card's interesting. I think that there was a time in Standard where like Mono Red was missing like 2-drops, and we've just kind of talked about 2 like pretty viable 2-drops for Mono Red. Yeah. They are kind of more geared towards
a slower game.
Yeah, definitely a slower game. So maybe they're sideboard cards. But I definitely like this card, even if it's only just for the sideboard, just for the sheer fact that sometimes that red deck needs to be able to filter a little bit, and this will provide that.
This is another one I think we can probably put on the shelf for now.
Yeah.
But like, because right now we have things like Earthshaker Kenra, we have Carry Zev, and Scrap Heap Scrounger is like
even like Harshmentor, which isn't seeing the play anymore. But could have.
Right.
So.
But maybe in the future, for kind of hurting for 2-drops. I mean, this isn't the worst thing to have. So
yeah.
Now, see, this next card could have been rare.
Yeah,
could have just switched them.
And again, I really don't think that this is going to see constructed play, but I at least want to mention it because it's an interesting templating of this ability.
But it could have been a rare.
Yeah, that's true. This is double cast. This is a red for a sorcery. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is an old effect. Fork is a very common red effect. The difference here between like fork effects and this is that you can't get blown out by a counterspell on the spell you are trying to cast. This now templates so you play this one first, and then you cast your next spell. Because it's a sorcery, you can't do the same things you could do with fork, but it stops you from getting crushed, which I think is interesting. We have seen in the past, in recent Standard, where the ability to copy a spell is pretty good, though that's been attached to other things, like Pyromancer's Goggles, for example. So I don't know where this sits in Constructed, but I at least wanted to mention, because of its interesting templating, that they are sort of moving around.
Yeah, I don't think this card is good enough for Constructed, or this type of spell really isn't doing all that much these days. I do think it's cool, and it would have been a cool thing to have in Dominaria, actually, because it's got like a throwback to Fork, but I think it's cool to see it here. I don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah, if anything, it very well may not do anything. We can move past it pretty quick. I just wanted to pay attention to them trying to fix a problem with a common red effect.
Yeah. It's definitely, I think, a better templating than what we had before.
So next up we have Goblins. Specifically, Dave, we want to talk about Goblin Instigator, possibly Goblin Motivator, definitely Goblin Trashmaster, probably
best
Gutter
name
Snipe.
in the set.
So
Trashmaster for life.
Trashmaster for life. That's actually was my nickname in high school.
All right.
It wasn't. Please don't get sad for me.
All right. So Goblin Instigator. So
I'm sorry. And Volley Veteran. That also goes.
Yeah.
But I can get to that one when
the
we get
FTK.
there.
Goblin Instigator. This is like one of the first cards we saw in the set that was spoiled early, I guess. This is a generic and a red for a 1/1 Goblin Rouge Rogue. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 red Goblin creature token.
Yeah, brings a friend with it.
Yeah, so he kind of gets hated on by his own tribe. Goblin Chain Whirler. He doesn't care. But I think like Goblins was kind of missing a way to go wide, I think. Or, you kind of want...
Dragon Fodder. Like, it's a pretty common effect for Goblins.
Yeah, Dragon Fodder, like Mog War Marshal is a card that is better than this one, but, this one's not too far off. But yeah, it's a way to go wide, and we do have a Lord, which makes the 1/1s bigger. But... you said Goblin Motivator.
Yeah, Goblin Motivator is just a 1/1 for a red. It's a Goblin Warrior and can tap to give something else haste.
Yeah, so we saw this. I mean, it's basically a reprint of the card that was in Ammo Cat, I think.
Bloodlust Insider.
Bloodlust Insider, except this one's a Goblin, so it's relevant creature type.
And it's one of those things where early on it's just a Goblin, but later on it can enable some cards off the top to be a little bit better. But,
yeah,
and Chain Whirler be hating, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
You can take the next two.
That's fine. The next three, whatever.
Whatever.
Let's go through them quick. Goblin Trashmaster, which is, again, one of the best names of a card ever. It's 2 generic red for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior. Other goblins you control get +1/+1. And it says sacrifice a goblin, destroy target artifact. So we get a Lord. It's a 4-mana Lord, which is a little awkward, though you do have War Chief as well to sort of help with this. The sack destroy an artifact is interesting.
Yeah. I could see this one seeing Legacy play, actually.
All
Again,
right.
I've said that I'm not.
So
I'm not
you have
most seasoned Legacy
Scrapper
player.
though and stuff like that in Legacy.
Yeah,
which
but it's
is,
just like kills
and
everything.
It's true. It costs a lot, but you can certainly get it off the Mog Catcher.
Yeah, and like even in Goblins, like your 8th battle still go up to 4 because you have Ringleader. So,
I think in standard it's irrelevant ability.
So where is this Goblin though? What plane?
This so specifically, I think the Vorthos cast mentioned this, didn't they? This is the same plane that Conspiracy takes place on.
Oh,
it's like a Grenzo Goblin.
Yeah. Okay. No, I see it.
Yeah, I guess it is interesting. Like you can look at just like all these different goblins that we've just talked about, and they all look different.
Yeah, on different planes.
And like Gutter Snipe even looks different.
Yeah.
Than
Gutter Snipe is a reprint. I think we mentioned before, but 2 generic and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. So that may not actually fit in with the Goblin's deck, but it is a relevant Goblin.
He's more of a wizard.
It's true.
He's like an honorary wizard.
Honorary wizard.
Yeah.
And the last one is Volley Veteran, which is 3 generic and a red for a 4/2 Goblin Warrior. When Volley Veteran enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target creature an opponent controls equal to the number of goblins you control. So as Dave mentioned, the FTK, Flametongue Kavu. Honestly, that's a pretty good 4-drop for that deck as something it probably needs. Something that a Goblin Instigator obviously makes better. So, or is it? I'm sorry, Instigator, or is it Instigator? Is that one that makes the token? As I'm scrolling back through.
Goblin Instigator.
Instigator, yeah, thank you. That's what I thought. Got Instigator and Motivator confused. So again, I think it's close. I think your CMCs still don't line up very well for a good curve, especially because like War Chief doesn't help things like Chain Whirler, and your 2-drops are still pretty bad. But you have a pretty powerful core. You have a Lord at 4, you have an FTK, you have Siege Gang Commander, you have Chain Whirler. There are some robust Goblin creatures. So it really only needs, I think, as Dave mentioned, maybe one more little push to sort of make it a deck that you might see. But right now, I still don't think it's quite there.
Yeah.
So if we still had Pile Driver in the format, do you think that would put it over the top? Can't be blocked by Scarab God.
Maybe I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's definitely better. It didn't get as much as I was hoping.
Yeah, same here.
But I think it's okay. Red is like pretty good right now. I think we're okay with red.
Lord is frustrating because like you have to actively choose right now to not play Hazaret, Chandra, or Rekindling Phoenix to choose to play that Goblin.
Yeah, it's a totally different deck.
Yeah, it is. It is, but like, go that route. Then like, why is it better? And right now, it just isn't.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
So yeah, right now.
But it could be. Maybe it could be.
I think that there's a lot of cards in this set that we're going to be like, right now, probably not. But we're also at the biggest standard will be for a while.
For very long time. So.
All
Next
right.
up.
Lathless Dragon Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get down. Okay. Lathless Dragon Queen. It's a 4 generic red for a 6/6 legendary dragon. Has flying. Whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. And then it has an activated ability of a generic and a red. Dragons you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Yeah, I don't think this card's good, but
Dang, Shivan Dragon, you got big.
yeah, I mean it's it's a dragon.
I think it's important because if you want to play dragons, there's a couple other cards coming up. The last actual 2 cards in red we'll talk about that sort of lead you this direction, and this is pretty powerful. We saw different cards, but like Kolaghan the Storm Fury, the ability to not just pump a dragon but to pump the team of dragons is interesting, and it quickly turns 1 dragon with fire breathing into, like, if you have 2, for example, then
yeah, but like
it's lights out.
Kolaghan pumped
Add
all
haste.
all your creatures, not
That's
just
also
your
true.
dragons.
That's true.
So you just play that in a token deck.
I'm aware that she's probably fairly average, but I do want to say, like, if you want to play dragons in standard, there are some payoffs, and I think she is one of the payoffs. She's also bigger than the other dragons.
I'll believe it when I see it.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I do want to quickly mention Lightning Strike and Shock are also both in this set.
Lightning Strike, less relevant because it was an Ixalan block, but Shock was not.
In Kaladesh.
Because it was a Kaladesh, so it sticks around.
So sticking with the dragon theme, we could talk about Sarkhan then, Sarkhan Fireblood, which is a generic red for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. It has 3 abilities. First is +1, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. +1 also, add 2 mana in any combination of colors, spend this mana only to cast dragon spells, and then -7, create 4 5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. So, as we joked about in the first half of this review, some narrow planeswalkers, and Sarkhan is super narrow and probably really, really bad.
Hey, Tybalt, get out of that Sarkhan costume.
Yeah, the Sarkhan costume. But I will say again, if you really want to try and play dragons, and we haven't even gotten into any of the, even looking at Lathless, for example, we haven't talked about any of the Elder Dragons yet.
Yeah.
Some of them, one in particular, which I think that one is the best card in the set, so we'll get to that. But are really, really good, and Sarkhan does accelerate you into them if you're in for that. Sarkhan is also fairly innocuous because it doesn't do anything by itself. So are you going to try and take it out? I don't know. So
is that like the so bad it's good argument?
Well, it's just like it doesn't affect the battlefield.
It's so bad
right?
they won't even kill it.
Like this isn't as simple as just like bolt the bird.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because you're gonna have to spend 2 spells or attacks to get rid of it. So I don't think that Sarkhan is very good, but in the dragon deck, like it's probably a scary 3-drop because you're like, well, okay, I don't want to Vraska's Contempt this because whatever you're gonna cast off of it is gonna be better. But then eventually you have to do something, or its ultimate does just make a life total team of dragons. So, I didn't put this on there, but you could also take a look at Sarkhan's Unsealing, which I will say the last part of it, Sarkhan's Unsealing is an enchantment that gives you a reward if you cast creatures with a high power level. It's pretty flavorful. I think the Vorthos cast talked about it a little bit, how like if you trigger it with a dragon, a creature with power 4, 5, or 6, it deals 4 damage to a creature. But if you trigger it with a quote-unquote Eldrazi, because that's what he's doing in Sarkhan's Unsealing, is he's releasing the Eldrazi under Bolas's orders. So if you cast something with 7 or more, you get to Flame Wave your opponent, which 4 damage to each creature, each planeswalker, and them. Like, it's powerful. It's probably not good enough to see any sort of play.
This is like a commander or like brawl card for sure. Like this is just a fun card.
But then the last card we're going to talk about, David, you have is Spitflame, which also goes in with all of this.
That dragon's going to drop the hottest mixtape.
Oh, yeah. Spitting straight flames.
Spitting hot fire.
Top 5 dragons in this set: Dylon, 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 and Dylon.
And Nicol Bolas. Before we get to that, I just want to mention Smelt. Where were you before Braid was printed? Like, that's all we needed was a Smelt. Destroy target effect for a single red.
Alan Jackson song popped into my head. Smelt, where were you when the world stopped?
All right. Spitflame is the actual card we're talking about. Spitflame is an instant. It's 2 generic and a red. Deals 4 damage to target creature. And it says, whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay red. If you do, return Spitflame from your graveyard to your hand. This is kind of like a fixed / worse Punishing Fire.
Yeah. Fixed.
But,
only for dragons.
But, not bad.
Where's Roast at, by the way? But whatever. But I think like once you start putting all these pieces together, or if you have Sarkhan on 3 and you're trying to ramp into some of these dragons, and then this is one of your removal spells that you get back multiple times, then you have the shell of a deck. I'm not saying it's a good deck right now. Again, there's a lot of things in Standard you want to do, but I will tell you that someone is going to go, Sarkhan into Glorybringer on 4, and then Split Flame your next creature, and you're not going to be okay. Like, you're not going to win that game. And I think like that's at least interesting when you look at some of the dragons here. So, yeah, while I will agree that something like Lathliss may be unimpressive, the dragons deck is probably closer than we're giving it credit for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
I'm on that same boat, and then I'm also going to say I wouldn't be surprised if we do see it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know how competitive it would be, and it won't be. I don't think it would be until like actual rotation. Probably, even the Glorybringer will rotate. But
the only thing that's super weird is I don't feel that like Ravnica has been very good for dragons.
No, it hasn't. But
well, we know there's going to be one.
That's probably true.
He's probably going to be a planeswalker though. Right?
Yeah.
Either way.
No. He's the one to visit, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah,
he's
a big dragon too.
No, so that's one of the best story payoffs I'm still waiting for, by the way, because the Miz has been investigating about planeswalkers, and the Miz fashions himself as like the oldest, most intelligent being, right? So like I want him to like okay, we've got to go tell the guilds like what's about to happen, and they go to Isnimiz and they're like, hey. So there's an elder dragon, and he's been around for thousands and thousands of years, and he thinks he's going to lock everyone here, and he's like, whoa, wait, there's an old dragon who says he's smarter than me, and they're like, yeah.
Two, technically. Like, let's be real. Ugin, probably.
Yeah, that's fine, but like, I don't want Niv Mizzet to be like, all right, this is BS. What can I do? Like, how can I help you? Because they shouldn't exist. I'm the best. But anyway, so that's red. Red, I think, is real weird.
There's one more card.
What?
No, there's not.
There's one. Well, yeah, I want to talk about one more card.
Okay.
But this card I think is actually quite good. It's Viashino Pyromancer.
Okay.
So it's a generic and a red for a 2/1. Viashino Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker.
Yeah, that's fair. We talked about 2 drops for red, and that is pretty good.
I think this is fine. Yeah. I mean, like, you can play it, nug, a Chandra, kill it, or
it also definitely does kill, like, a tick down Teferi, for example.
Yeah, and I think we could see, maybe not now, maybe after rotation, we could see more of a burn style red more than like a creature style, because this being a wizard also turns on Wizard Lightning, which is starting to see a little bit more play in Standard. So this card I think is a little under the radar. I think it's actually
you're
pretty
right.
good.
That's a good call. I also think for those people who are upset there were no Viashinos in Dominaria, here you go. They gave you one.
We'll make it a wizard for some reason.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. That's a pretty good call. So again, I think Red got Goblins got some things. We have some good reprints, and we got dragons. So I think Red did okay.
Red did very red things.
Yeah, it did a lot of burning. Burn, baby, burn.
Disco Inferno.
All right. Let's move on to green then. Shout out to Blanchwood Armor, which has an art that I just always recognize because it's one of those cards from like when I was a kid. So
there was a saga.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just very iconic.
So like tip of the hat, wag of the finger. If you're a Colbert, tip of the hat, Blanchwood Armor, wag of the finger, Colossal Dreadmaw. Get out of my set.
Why?
They've gone on record saying that's just like one of their Colossal Dreadmaw going to be in a lot of sets.
Yeah, I
and he
know.
said that could fit into more likely to be there because it's just like the quintessential green common.
Yeah, I'm aware, but it's still whatever.
It's a good limited card.
All right. So first up here is Elvish Clan Caller. So not to be outdone by those gobos, the elves got themselves a pretty interesting card. So this is green for a 1/1 creature elf druid. And it says other elves you control go +1/+1, so it's a lord. And then it has an activated ability. 4 generic green. Tap, search your library for a card named Elvish Clan Caller, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. I think this card is very good. And I think this card is going to be very good in modern goblins.
You mean modern elves?
Modern goblins. No, modern goblins. I said it.
Probably not good in modern goblins. Probably not.
I'm committing to it, yes.
Yeah, no, modern elves, I mean. Because that deck is always trying to churn out and search for, its win condition with this, but sometimes its win condition is just a bunch of Elvish Archdruids. So once you have all of your mana producers in play with this, it only takes you 2 turns to essentially get all of them into play, and then your elves are just a huge army already.
Yeah, once you get Heritage Druid involved, it's very easy to activate this.
Yeah, and it's already a Lord. And then once you have two of them, again, like I think because this card plays so well with the mana accelerants that are already there, and that it plays well with itself, wanting to find more copies. I think this is a sort of a slam dunk for elves.
Yeah, it's a card that just finds itself.
Yeah,
and who among us can really say that we've found ourselves?
I also think this art is sweet. It feels very Lord of the Rings-esque.
Yeah.
So,
I do think. Well, a knock against this card for standard is it's 1/1. So
sure,
yeah. You already know.
But I mean, there's no elves are not a thing. In standard.
You say standard, I'm like whatever.
Right.
They're just not. We have a few elves in Dominaria, including Llanowar elves. Don't get me wrong, but nothing like they're not yet. Anyways, have they pushed it that way? And I know there are elves in the Selesnya, but
yeah,
but
I mean technically there's elves in Golgari.
That's true too, but they're not normally tribal. Maybe they could push that way, but
yeah.
So I don't see it doing much in standard, at least not right now. But definitely, I think modern it's going to slot in pretty quickly.
I could see it. I could also see it not really affecting it.
Really?
Because like if you're going to search for an elf, right? Wouldn't you just get like a Zuri and just end the game?
That's of course you would. But I'm saying is like this card, because it's a 1-card engine by itself, I think already operates well within what that deck is trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, of course, they'd rather search for a Zuri.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I'm saying this card is good because it searches for itself, not because you can search for it.
We'll wait and see on this one.
Fair enough.
I'm not sure on it. I don't play elves, so I don't really know what they would want. But anyway, all right. Next card here. I think this is a pretty interesting card.
Yeah.
Elvish Rejuvenator. So it's 2 generic and a green for a 1/1 elf druid. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I think it's interesting to note that it doesn't have to be a basic.
Nope,
no.
Just
any land card. Yeah. So it's kind of like a ramp spell, but it doesn't guarantee that you hit, which is kind of awkward. But being able to hit any land is pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think like if you hit a bounce land with this in cube, that'd be nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's real good.
But yeah, I think it's a solid card. It's like a Wood Elves.
Yeah, I remember Wood Elves seeing like a fair amount of play. Now, granted, this is a different type of standard. Your 3-mana 1/1 has to compete with, again, Chain Whirler, which is what we keep saying. But the fact that you just put it into play, like this always ramps you even if it dies. Like just
but it doesn't always ramp you.
Yeah, as long as you hit, that's fair. Yeah, but probably.
Yeah, I think this is a. Is it good enough for constructed? Yes, but I think it's contextual on what's going on in the format. So,
but I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, so I want to make a quick mention because I had a couple of people tell me about how excited they were for Gigantosaurus. This is the 10/10 creature dinosaur for GGGG. Sorry, there you go. 5 Gs.
5 Gs.
It's a big vanilla creature. A couple of people have mentioned that in standard it's pretty easy to play this. Like you can legitimately play it on turn 3 with Llanowar Elves. There's a lot of it just ties to a lot of things and it's easy to chump, but it is a very large creature. I think that the issue is that like you have this you can play, or you can try and play a deck that casts Galta, the Primal Hunger, and I think that
Galta is trample.
Yeah, trample, and it's just I think a little better. But
this, to be fair, makes it real easy to cast Galta.
Yeah, it does. I know that this is definitely the kind of card that scratches that itch for certain players. It certainly isn't me, but I just had a lot of people who were really excited about it. I don't see it. I don't see it being good enough for constructed, but maybe I'm wrong.
Is this standing on a dragon?
Yes.
Is this like in like Jurassic Park? Like I haven't seen the new one, but I know in the Jurassic World, it's like it's like nothing beats the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
This is Jurassic Game of Thrones Westworld 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's like, you could try to invent all these new dinosaurs, but nothing beats T-Rex.
So, also, Vivian Reed, stop it. Stop being Steve Irwin.
Let's get a closer look. No, so again, if you're excited for this card,
I'm
for you. But let's talk about
each tooth is the length of a horse.
Let's talk about a card that doesn't interact at all with with Gigantosaurus, even though you think it would. Goreclaw, Terra of Kalsisma. So this is a 3 generic and a green for a legendary creature bear. It's a 4/3.
Legendary bear.
Legendary bear. I definitely did ask Mark Rosewater if Sirach could ever hug this bear or punch this bear. I'm sorry, did not get an answer.
Oh,
so.
that's too bad.
But it says creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 generic less to cast. And then whenever Goreclaw Terror of Calcisma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 against trample until end of turn.
Okay, so it does interact with Gigantosaur. You just have to attack with it, and then that's how you give it trample.
That's how you give it trample. That's fair. So I think like a format of 4/3 is not exciting, but that cost reduction of 2 generic is sort of interesting if you're looking for that. This is obviously the power 4 or greater is that ferocious. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of
a callback to that mechanic from the Tarkir.
It's like cared about power 4
right
creatures.
Yeah.
So I don't know like where Goreclaw really sits, but because it powers out other things, it's kind of interesting.
It sits in your trade binder.
Oh wow!
Oh.
That's harsh.
Maybe this is the Brawl commander you've been waiting for because you didn't want to play Galta, but yeah, I don't know. This card's boring.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not seeing it.
Moving on.
I wish it was better, but
Yeah,
like if it was a 4/4, didn't die to lightning strike, or a braid, I don't know. But
yeah, it's fair.
4/2 is awkward.
Hey, there's an old friend, and he's back and better than ever.
Highland game?
He's a rare now.
Oh, not Highland game.
Not Highland game.
Oh,
It's the Palaka
Palaka worm.
Yep, rare now. Get out of your cube, Dave. You gotta take it out.
Common, uncommon.
You gotta take it out now. It's a rare.
Now. You gotta take it out.
Gotta take it out.
Nah, it's not going anywhere.
Palaka
worm.
Clearly too good for uncommon.
So it didn't ruin limited. If you haven't seen this card, it's the reprint from Rise of the Eldrazi.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's 4 generic green, 7/7 trample worm, enters the battlefield, gain 7. When it dies, draw a card. Why was this ever an uncommon? I don't know.
Because
this is like the rarest uncommon of all. This would be a rare even in Dominaria.
Because the limited format that it was played in, you could also just play other big dumb idiots that did other broken things.
I guess that's
it'd be an uncommon in Dominaria. It would just be a legend.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We keep talking about this, like alluding to this ramp deck that could exist. This is what you'd ramp into, right? Like if you were going to build an actual ramp deck in Standard, this is the card you're getting.
This is legitimate payoff. I mean, this is something that it helps keep you alive.
It's a stabilizing force against the red decks.
Yeah.
And then
guess what? It's super cheap because it was an uncommon.
Yeah, it's true too.
Yeah.
But it's been printed at uncommon multiple times, right?
They could still essence scatter it. It's not so good against the control decks probably,
right.
But what can you do?
But it's definitely for a certain type of deck. If this card is on it comes out of the battlefield, you're just like, oh, I lost. Like that's cool, and it feels the same way in Cube too.
Yeah,
so.
Weird.
Yeah, green needs something to keep up.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think it has a chance to see some standard play.
Yeah.
I want to. We don't talk about it too much, but I do want to. Right now, we could talk about it again. Who cares? Reclamation Sage has got.
Yeah, Rex Sage.
2 generic and a green for a 2/1 creature elf shaman. When it enters the battlefield, destroy. You may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Yeah. Just a good solid card.
Great card.
Saw a lot of play when it was reprinted the last time.
Yep, glad to see it back.
And this is a format where we'll see a ton of play as well.
Yeah,
welcome modern back.
We played in every format. We played in like Legacy Elves.
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe. Probably.
You can like
because
return
it's better
it.
than Viridian Shaman.
You can return it with the.
Yeah. Because like Viridian Shaman definitely saw play in
artifacts.
Yeah. So yeah, probably. Just good card. Thumbs up.
It's even played in humans.
Yeah, wish it was a human.
Yeah.
Probably too good.
Wow, that's mean. Let it be an elf.
It could be an elf, but I mean, I wish they would print a human that just said this too. But that would be real good.
But yeah, we already talked about. There's a ton of great targets at Standard right now. So
yeah, don't even worry about it. It'll hit something. Probably, maybe even your opponent, but maybe an artifact too.
All right. Before we get to the next card, I just want to mention Root Snare. It's a fog.
What up, fog? Welcome back.
Yeah, it's a 2-mana fog. So
cool.
We had a few other fogs effects in the format too. So
as you said, I mean the format is as big as it's going to be. So if it's like every couple of years, people are like Turbo Fog, maybe with the new buy box promo card.
Turbo Fog Teferi.
Yeah. Just saying, it's out there. Be aware. All right. The real next card, Runic Armasaur. It's a dinosaur. Cost generic green for 2/5. Seems weird that they're printing all these dinosaurs now. They're like, yeah, we can do this now.
We made
all
them.
Right. Has a pretty cool ability of whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. This includes fetch lands. Hey.
Fetch lands, things like man lands, and things like the flip lands from Ixalan,
Like Field
things
of
like
Ruin.
the Scarab God.
Yeah. Walking
I'm just
Ballista.
saying when they activate Scarab God to draw a card.
Walking Ballista.
Oh God, that's a lot of cards.
It's a 2/5, so he's got a big old butt.
It's got a big old butt.
Yeah, I imagine if they have a Walking Ballista in play, they're either going to want to sack it, or it's just going to be just a generic whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to probably give you.
They
any
don't want
extra
to
cards.
fire off all the missiles.
Probably not.
Probably not. No.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this card is pretty sweet. It's definitely costed to be constructed playable. And the stats are good. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Next up, we have a pretty spicy reprint. Scape Shift.
Yeah.
It's a 2 generic green for a sorcery. Sacrifice any number of lands. Search your library for up to that many lands. Sorry, and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So this is a common combo piece we see in Modern. This is how you kill with Valakut. You Scape Shift to get a bunch of Valakuts and mountains, and you blow your opponent up. In Standard, there's nothing like that right now. So this is right now looks to be a reprint just to sort of help cost and get more copies of. Because that card was what, Lorwyn, Morning Tide.
Morning Tide. Yeah.
But yeah, so not a lot of them in existence comparative to Modern Magic. So, and this has been a pretty pricey card for a while.
Oh, very much so.
It would have been cool if they reprinted this when we had Battle for Zendikar and we had some of the landfall creatures.
No, that would have made sense. Stop.
Well,
yeah, it would have been pretty good.
Because they really powered those cards down. Like when they made landfall the second time, it was like, all right, yeah, we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Scape Shift would have been cool.
We don't need to talk about Battle for Zendikar ever again.
Yeah.
No.
Would have been cool.
Miss me with that talk.
It has some sweet new art too.
Yeah,
this is this art was spoiled. There's a Magic Online promo I think that shares this art, so we kind of knew something was a brewing.
Yeah, the sweet Ixalan art specifically.
Yeah,
because the belligerent wasn't that Vraska ship? Was the belligerent?
Yeah, I think so.
So, we do have some cool things in Standard that we haven't talked about. Crucible of Worlds yet.
We still have Ramanab Excavator.
And we also have the dinosaur, the 5/5 that you can play an extra land each turn.
Oh yeah.
So
and then when you get
the
Wayward
blessing,
Swordtooth.
that's the one. So
Tatiova.
Well, Tatiova's pretty good with this card. I'm not gonna lie.
This is not going to be like competitive.
No,
but it's cool.
No, but it's pretty good in your brawl deck.
We have World. It's not World Breaker because it's a different card. It's
World Shaper.
That's the one. Yeah. And then we also have the Mending of Dominaria, which I will say that card's not seeing play right now, but having played with that now and limited a couple times, that card's very good.
Pretty close.
It's pretty close because, especially if you could dump a bunch of lands into your graveyard, because it feels a lot like the deck from last format, the green black deck that played seasons past. Like that's how the Mending of Dominaria feels. Like you just get to get all these things, and then you shuffle all the good stuff back in, but all the lands that were there on the battlefield, so you're not going to draw them, and it's pretty interesting. I think it's closer than you think. So, which for anybody listening in Northeast Ohio, that is the tagline for a car dealership, and I apologize for that. It's Cleveland; they're closer than you think. So, but yeah, Scape Shift is back, and we also that puts us on high alert for anything that does have combo potential.
Yeah, and now Valakut is the expensive part of the Scape Shift deck. Sorry.
Unlike in the past where they've maybe made some mistakes, I think they're going to be keenly aware of Scape Shift being in the format before they print anything that combos with it in Standard anyway. So, next card up, it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
To be honest, Thorn Lieutenant.
Before we get to that, I did want to bring up Talons of Wildwood.
It's not good. You can bring it up. It's bad.
I only bring it up because you can return it from the graveyard. That is why it's important.
You can.
Is that really something that like Boggles is looking for though?
I mean, they play Griffspoon as well.
That puts it on the creature.
Yeah, puts it on the creature and gives it flying.
I mean, yeah, I understand, but this gives it trample, so it's still a form of evasion.
I would agree. Like if this put it on the creature, I think it'd be way better. But the fact that you have to like return it and then cast it again,
I would give it to you. See, so Morgan's looking at Talons of Wildwood as a Boggles card. It's a generic and a green for an aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, has trample, and has an activated ability of 2 generic and a green. Return Talons of Wildwood from your graveyard to your hand. So it has recursive ability, which makes it a viable option for Boggles. I don't think they'll ever play it, but
I'm not saying you play a lot of it. I'm saying it's a one of. Just like Griffspoon is not necessarily a 4 in that deck, but it's another card that hey, you could do this with. It's important.
okay.
Also, if you draft mono green and have the 10/10 dinosaur in your draft deck,
There you go, boom.
make sure to pick up one of these.
Figured it out.
True.
Combo. All right, Thorn Lieutenant. It's a generic in a green for a 2/3 elf warrior. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. It also has an activated ability of 5 in green. Thorn Lieutenant gets +4/+4 until end of turn. This is another card that feels like an uncommon to me, but whatever.
I disagree. I think it's definitely a rare, but
Okay. So I'm not really feeling this one. The activated ability feels like a strictly limited kind of ability that's
it's
tacked
possible.
on.
Yeah, it's fair.
I guess in constructed, like it's kind of a 2-for-1 because if they kill it, you at least get a 1/1.
I think like a 2-mana 2/3 feels right for a good 2-drop for an aggressive green deck.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it is a 2-for-1 with those kind of abilities, I think is fairly interesting. And I agree. Like the second thing does feel like a tacked on like evoker or what kind of thing. But at the same time, like a 2-drop that can be relevant later is I think still pretty worthwhile. So
yeah, it's not quite a 2-for-1. It's like a 1.25 for 1.
yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's not like Sylvan Advocate, for example, but it's still I think it's still fine.
Sylvan Advocate was pretty busted.
Yeah, somehow it was definitely a good Magic card.
Like I said, I'm back on that set review.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was a large amount of time in Standard after Bant stopped being played that didn't see any play at all. So,
but it also was kind of the watermark for like what you had to beat. You know,
yeah,
you couldn't beat a 2/3.
I still think it was Reflector Mage was the 2/3 you had to beat, but
yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, you're fair. But I think like this card is fine, and I think it will definitely see Standard play. Like this is a good 2-drop. So, and then lastly for green is our good buddy Vivian Reed.
crikey.
Crikey. You know what? I did the Bane one for this. I could try Vivian Reed. That was almost British. I don't even know where that was.
The Australian accent
maybe
is
we
quite
should,
difficult.
Yeah, maybe we should cut this one off.
3 generic green for a legendary planeswalker. Vivian has 5 loyalty to start. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have vigilance, trample, and indestructible. We did talk about Vivian a couple weeks ago when she was spoiled, and while she is the generic, and when I mean generic, she is a 5-mana planeswalker that ticks up to draw a card, ticks down to kill something, and it has an ultimate. That has been their cookie cutter design now for a few years, unfortunately. But I do think that Vivian Reed is actively pretty good. The -3 is really, really relevant in our standard right now. There are lots of creatures of flying you want to kill, and there's also lots of artifacts and enchantments you want to kill. The +1 being able to give you a creature or land makes it pretty hard to miss if you've built your deck for Vivian. And then you don't judge a planeswalker by its ultimate, but its ultimate does probably push your creatures over the hump no matter what the board state is, unless you have, I guess, no creatures, in which case you've disappointed Vivian, and I don't know why you ultimated her.
Yeah, she's very disinterested in your board.
Like, permanent Song of Release, like Chapter 3. Yeah, I think this card, like, when you first see it, you're like, it's not that good. But I think it actually plays better than it looks. Like, being able to just blow up an artifact, enchantment, or a creature with flying is actually going to be more relevant than what it seems. Like we talked about, a lot of the white removal is enchantment based. So being able to, like, put this down, blow something up, get a creature back. This is still on the battlefield. It's gonna get you more value if it stays out.
Especially post-rotation, because Ixalan's Binding is going to be very important once cast out is gone.
Yeah.
And hitting that is going to be important.
Yeah. I think it's fighting for space probably with the 5-mana Nissa right now. Though they don't really do the same things, but they're still just 5-mana green planeswalkers.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, she's like a boring but playable. Like, when you look on the back of her card, it says compared to like another green planeswalker, like the generics do when you buy like generic medication from like Walmart or Target or something. That's what it feels like when we say generic, or like it's like.
Saying it's a Canadian planeswalker?
Well, no. Like, yeah, sure, like the generics. Yeah. Or it's the bag cereal. That's what this card is. Vivian Reed is bag cereal. Because she's like.
I definitely have bag cereal at my house right now.
Yeah, because like she's not good enough for a box.
It's the same thing, but way less.
But she's fine.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
What's her story anyway? Did you guys ever?
So we haven't gotten there in like the chronicles yet. So essentially, Bolas blew up her plane, like destroyed it. So she's upset at him, and she preserves nature, but apparently, like she imprints the souls of animals that she's like met. Which again, I wish her card told us in any way. The fact that she literally has creatures on her card and she doesn't make tokens
makes no sense.
Is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, she's got a bow that has some like magical thing.
It can destroy enchantments apparently. So,
I mean, a lot of the planeswalker like their first appearance is kind of generic. So
yeah, it just I don't know. They've sort of they've done a good job of seeding her on like flavor text and giving her a personality and giving her a card that doesn't do anything with it. So, but I mean, I still think it's a fine card. So. Honestly, green was our shortest list of cards to talk about, and I think that they didn't get very much.
Nah.
So
green's kind of boring.
That's fine. Deal with the green. So let's move into multicolor, and the first thing we're going to do with multicolor, this is where I'd stopped Dave before, is I do want to talk about the cycle of horses.
Yeah.
So each color got an uncommon horse.
The hate horses.
Yeah, I'm going to go through.
The haters.
Let me give you the rundown on the horses, and then we can pick out the few that we really want to talk about. So green has Vine Mare, which is 2 generic green for a 5/3 creature elemental horse. It has hexproof, and it can't be blocked by black creatures. So Dave, this is your Phantom Centaur.
Yeah. Why does this card exist?
I mean, because
I hate it.
Yeah, because you're going to be really upset when someone casts this against you in limited.
Yeah, because that's true.
Or constructed, like I don't know why. Why do they keep printing hexproof creatures?
To be fair, in constructed, we do have a lot more options as far as like sacrifice.
Oh, we get the land now. Ooh,
sacrifice creatures go. But we have like Doomfall. We still have the Eldest Reborn. So still a lot of things that they can interact with it, and like you can still just block it.
Well, not with black creatures.
not if you're playing
I understand, not with black creatures, but that's why you have the sacrifice things.
The red one is the Lightning Mare, which is a red for a 3/1. This spell can't be countered. Again, elemental horse. They're all elemental horses. Lightning Mare can be blocked by blue creatures, and it has fire breathing, but it's a generic and a red to activate it.
Why does this not have haste?
I don't know, but I think that it can't be countered is pretty relevant, and even like the can't be blocked by blue creatures is interesting because a common line is for them to like flash and
Gearhulk.
You gotta do that.
Yeah, it still does like to all the black removal though.
Yeah, and the white removal as well. But I think like a 3/1 for 2 that can't be countered and has fire breathing. That's an interesting red 2-drop to be sure.
Congratulations, you now have your new Fatal Push / Seal Away target.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. But hey,
yeah, I think that one's bad.
That's a pony.
Just bad.
It's probably true, but. What are you
also does the Chain Whirler randomly, but not saying that you would even see it in that matchup. But
the next one is the one that Dave wanted to talk about before, which is Plague Mare. It's a generic black for a 2/2. This is a Nightmare horse, not elemental.
Oh yeah, it's a Nightmare horse.
It can be blocked by white creatures, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. Where have we heard that before? This is Goblin Chain Whirler. Yeah. Not entirely. The damage to a planeswalker is
relevant, and the player is
super relevant.
Yeah.
But
can't be blocked. So remember that white weenie deck potential white weenie deck that we talked about in the last one? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we got a cool hate card for it.
Yeah, this card is definitely gross.
Not only is it going to kill half your board, you can't block it.
Next up is Surge Mare, which is a blue for a 0/5. This is a horsefish. Have you seen the art for this? I don't know. I'm sorry. Is it Sam Sam Rowan. Just so you know, Sam, it looks wonderful, but you gave the horsefish actual horse front limbs, like not like fins or anything else.
Not like a seahorse.
Full on like you could put horseshoes on them. How does it move in the water? Do you understand how swimming works, Sam?
It's so it can dig.
Dig in the water?
Yeah,
it's got a tail. It can propel itself with the tail.
It's like a lobster or something.
I guess it looks more like a snake. Honestly, it's disgusting. I'm sorry, it's disgusting. Anyways, this is a blue for a 0.5 horsefish.
It's a seahorse.
No,
but
it's a horsefish.
It's a seahorse.
Look at it.
It's a horse in the sea.
There. It can't be blocked by green creatures. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card if you do discard a card. And then it says, it has an active ability of generic and a blue. Surge Mare gets +2/-2 until a turn. I think this card is sweet.
Yeah, I like this card.
This one I actually could see, getting play.
Because
0.5 is like pretty big. It's just
it just comes out for 2 and block, and then like against the right deck, like you get a bunch of green creatures, then you can just sort of get like you can attack for a lot with this actually. So you just like take 4. Oh, I'll draw a card. So I think it's kind of interesting. And then the last horse, the white one, is also getting a little bit of talk, and I got to scroll back all the way back up to this white little horse.
Oh, the gain life one.
Shield Mare which also has the sweetest art. I want you to know because it's definitely a horse bubbling itself against a dragon trying to burn it. It's generic white for a 2/3. It can't be blocked by red creatures. When it enters the battlefield or becomes the target of spell or ability an opponent controls, you gain 3 life. So this is technically competing for space with Sunscourge Champion.
Yeah.
Right, so Sunscourge, is that the right
Yeah.
word? Okay, cool. But this gains more life when it comes to the battlefield, and if they have to use a removal spell on it, you also gain more life, which is pretty great. And it's also a white horse that goes along with Crested Sunmare and triggers Crested Sunmare. It's also indestructible if Crested Sunmare is in play. So it's already got a little bit of buzz for making horses a thing apparently. But I think against red, this card is kind of sweet because you are almost like if they try because it's a 2/3, so they can Earthshaker counter it. Go for it. I'll gain 3 life. You know what I mean? They can exert their Crasher against it. Great, I'll gain 3 life. They can Lightning Strike. Great, I'll gain 3 life. It's pretty hard for you not to get 6 life out of that exchange.
Yeah, it seems like the anti-red white cards are the most brutal.
They always are.
Maybe it's just because red is so, for the most part, one-dimensional, or
right.
Historically has been. Because it's anything that's protection from red or gain life has some other anti-red clause on it. It's just core Firewalker is the most ridiculous one probably, but it's just it's always been that way. But to be fair, red is clearly the best color right now in Standard, and is pretty much dominating the format. So I think we're okay with this one.
Yeah, but I think a couple of those have a real chance to see some play. And I think it's kind of interesting because they again, this showing their willingness, especially at Uncommon, because I think one of the things that they've forgotten when they, these last few years when they, even with or without a core set, is that they're supposed to teach new players how the colors are supposed to interact. And when you see in Constructed, people play any color pair they want because of the lands, but really there should be tension in the color pie. So showing this even on these weird horses, I think is kind of interesting. You know what I mean? They all get an ability that is fairly, hey, white gains life. You know what I mean? And is an enemy of red. Blue is tricky about when it gets to attack. So sometimes it'll pump itself so it can get in. Other times it'll be defensive.
Hey, green is hexproof. Why does this card exist?
Red has fire breathing, and the spell's going to resolve. So I think that's interesting. And black just is the I don't know the horseman of death. So
green has hexproof. Everyone hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go back to Vine Mare real quick.
Okay, go back to Vine Mare.
All right.
Do it for the Vine Mare.
So these all have they're hating on the colors. This Vine Mare can't be blocked by black creatures. Sure. We just had Dominaria, which had 2 knights, which had I think abilities that were pretty well received, like hexproof from white, hexproof from black, which was kind of a new take on protection or hexproof. It's okay, these are good against the colors that they're supposed to be good against, but it's not just unbeatable. Mm-hmm. Other colors can interact with it. why does this not have hexproof in black? Like, it seems like a perfect opportunity to be like, yeah, you know what? We're going to keep going with this because it seems to be fair.
Because they want
like, why can't red kill this thing?
Yeah, they want to make you angry.
Mad.
Yeah. Why can't red, like, lightning strike this guy? Like, it's just...
No, because it's a 5/3. They just block it with Chain Whirler in the first strike.
That's probably true, but... I don't know. This card just...
I know.
I hate it.
So those were the it feels weird to say this, but our cycle of ponies. So friendship is magic.
There is one more, but we're probably not going to talk about it.
No, it's an artifact. It's not
one.
good.
It's the Black Sheep. Pony.
Yes. I was going to say Black Steed, but that's Black Beauty. And that's not right because it's colorless. Anyways, so let's look into some gold cards so we can talk about. Honestly, the only gold cards we're going to talk about are these 5 Elder Dragons.
Woo.
So for those who don't know, if you haven't played Magic for very long and you've not been paying attention, these Elder Dragons in this set are the same Elder Dragons there was a cycle of in Legends back in the mid 90s when Magic was first kind of a thing. They're important for a few reasons. One, because like Nicol Bolas was one of them and has become this huge figure for Magic. But two, like you play Commander now, and maybe you've played Commander and always known it as Commander, but Commander was originally called EDH, or Elder Dragon Highlander, which was originally based on legends like these Elder Dragons, which you can only play the colors of them. So they are sort of permeated and sort of have shifted Magic based on their mere existence. So getting new cards with them, a new story with them, is awesome.
Yeah, they're definitely, more than just being legendary creatures. Like, they're just legendary figures in Magic lore.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Now, in the story, like, is this like a flashback or something? Or,
yes, these are flashbacks.
Okay.
So the one of them was one of them was an actual like vision quest that was given, and then some of it was given this last week by a disciple of Shu Yun, which was the Jeskai leader back in Fate Reforged, and apparently they had to memorize the story of Ugin and give it, and like they passed it down orally. So that's where part of this so far has been. We've only had 2 sections of the story so far as of the recording of this. A few weeks from now, you might have had more, but this is all I know at this time.
All right, am I starting off here?
Yeah, because I did the ponies. So
okay, so the first one, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Arcades?
Arcades, yeah.
All right, they're strategist.
So Arcades 7th.
So this is the Bant colored one, so it's generic green, white, blue. Legendary Elder Dragon, so it's a 3/5 flying and vigilance. It says whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Then each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So with the abilities on this, we've seen that before on things like Assault Formation, and
Duran the Siege
like
Tower.
Doran, yeah.
Doran is a little bit different because this one doesn't attack for as like a 5/5. Arcades is a 3/5, always a 3/5. It does not have Defender.
I feel like this should have Defender, but maybe a 5/5 for 4 would be too good.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
with
good.
other abilities. So
yeah, with Flying and Vigilance.
Flying Vigilance is still pretty good. But,
yeah.
I don't know about constructed playability for this card, but it's definitely like a cool commander to have.
Yeah, if you happen to foil this one, you're in the money because this is like everyone's like old, get out of here, Duran. We have a new bay.
The new hotness.
Right.
It's also pretty sweet because like Arcades is literally the in these stories he's depicted as like building up towns and like being the Dragon Lord for humans. So like but his original card had the ability text for the enchantment is Castle, like untapped creatures you control go +0/+2. So like he's always been about defense. So this is kind of sweet. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I will say stat wise, it's close to constructed playable. Like a 4-mana 3/5 flyer with vigilance is pretty good.
It's close, but
the other stuff is
having to put a bunch of defenders in your deck. It hasn't really translated to constructed viability.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, if you were putting this in your deck, you're just like I just want a 3/5 for 4. That was Flying and Vigilance.
Yeah. But sweet. Next up, we have Chromium the Mutable. Chromium Ruel.
This card's sweet.
Yeah, 4 generic white, blue, blacks. This is the Esper one. This is a 7/7 legendary creature Elder Dragon. Has flash, and it can't be countered. Also has flying. and has an ability called discard a card, discard a card until the end of turn. Chromium the Mutable becomes a human with base power and toughness 1/1, loses all abilities, and gains hexproof. It can't be blocked this turn. Which, again, I'll say it one more time. Regardless of the worthless cast, they actually did explain why he becomes a human, which is pretty sweet. But as a card, I think this is a pretty sweet one. 7 Flash can't be countered. 7/7 that also is very hard to kill because you can give it hexproof in response to things.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost any mana, I think, is a huge one.
Right, absolutely.
So, you can tap out, play this, you don't have to worry about it. Just I don't even know what, I guess, cast out or cast down. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Cast down doesn't kill legends, so.
No, cast out. I think that's what I'm thinking of. The
enchantment.
I knew it was one of those. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it just eating a removal spell immediately. It's kind of weird that it can't be blocked because you can't change it back to a 7/7. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is sweet. This is definitely a nice control finisher, for control mirrors and things like that. And we definitely have a couple different flavors of control decks or mid range that would love to have this type of card. I think in standard right now.
And it hits hard.
Yeah, this is definitely going to see constructed play. If even if that's only in sideboards.
Yeah,
those control.
I mean that's just what they've talked about this card in design. They said this is a control finisher. This is what we designed this card to be. That's what it is.
We've seen similar cards. What was the last one? It was the
we have one right now.
Blue
it's still in play. That's
the Elder Dino.
Yeah, the Elder Dino.
Yeah, it didn't really pan out.
I mean, it's seen some play.
Also still a control finisher. So
yeah, this one's better. Yeah.
Definitely better.
Sure.
All right, next up we have the man himself.
Ooh, Nicol Bolas, the Ravager,
the best card in the set.
I think it's probably between those two. Yeah, I would have to agree. I don't know if this necessarily. If I clearly know where my lines
the
lie.
best new card in the set. I'll go back to your addendum.
Yeah. This is probably the best card. So Nicol Bolas, of course, is Grixis colors. So he's 1 blue, black, red. Legendary Elder Dragon. It's 4/4 flying. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Has a very interesting activated ability. Activated ability of 4 blue, black, red. Exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. And the transformed version is the Planeswalker, Nicol Bolas the Arisen. Has 7 loyalty, has 4 abilities. So we start with a +2 of draw 2 cards, -3. Nicol Bolas the Arisen deals 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker, -4 per target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and a -12 exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. So, yeah, both sides of this card are very good. I think 4 mana 4/4 flyer. With just a Ravenous Rat ability is actually surprisingly very good. You wouldn't think just discard a card to be that great, but it's 2 for 1.
Yeah, it's just all upside.
It's all upside. It is interesting that they made the activated ability on the front side only be doable as a sorcery, but I kind of like that they did that because I think it would have been a little too obnoxious if they just made it. You could just do it at instant speed.
No, this card would be busted in half.
Yeah, so there is some play there where it's you're gonna basically tap out to do this, right. You could get it removed in response, but man, I think the front side is good enough where it's just you're fine just waiting on it. You can just wait until maybe you empty their hand with discard or whatnot. Maybe you duress them, see the coast is clear. Whatever, and then if you flip this over, it's just
every
it's just
ability
absurd.
On this card is just ridiculous.
Yeah, like every other Nicol Bolas Planeswalker we've seen.
That's true.
They're all just gonna end the game pretty quickly. So, yeah, I mean, this is power level super high. I guess the only thing I guess you could say against it is it's 3 colors, but that's not really a huge problem right now in standard. So, expect this one. This one's gonna be a game changer. Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Card's definitely good. You definitely have to invest a lot in it to get to the other side, and you may not need it ever. I think it's nice that we always have Vraska's attempt of the format.
Yeah,
And,
it's both sides.
Yeah, that's it's super important. And I would say that this card is definitely good, but I know, Dave, you don't think that Grixis, having it to be Grixis is necessarily a downside, but mana bases aren't necessarily like foolproof. It's still difficult. And not saying we didn't have a Grixis beforehand, but that's still
had a very good Grixis deck
but that was still
recently.
energy based though at that point in time, and not saying that can come back into the format, but context has still changed. I mean, it's not necessarily as viable as it is or could be, and not to mention that. Where do you guys see this as being like more of a mid range card?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is like the ultimate mid range
like
card.
The mid range card.
This is the ultimate mid range card. This is like
absolutely.
just 4 mana. Like it comes down, they discard a card, and it's like even if they kill it right away, that's like okay, that's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
4/4 is huge. It doesn't die to a lot of the removal spells. You can't cast down this one.
Yeah, you can't cast it down.
You can't push it. No, you can.
You definitely can fatal push
some
this
help.
card.
Yeah.
It's harder, but you can.
Man, this is gonna be a thing.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very good.
There's a lot of risk and reward to this card. It's not just all.
But is there a risk?
Yeah, like
it's
the
not
risk,
really
the
any
risk
risk.
is only when you're going to tap out for 7. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a great card on 4. Like, yeah, I think this card is just very good.
If the front side wasn't if the stats on the front side weren't that impressive, and it's like okay, you really only get the payoff if you transform, then it'd be like then risk or reward. But it's just it's just it's just a good card. Like on the front side, even if it was just it didn't have the transform, it would still be playable and constructed.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So the fact that it's oh yeah, then you get to transform it and you just win the game. Cool.
Yeah, so next up we have Palladium Wars, the Ruiner. This is our Naya one, so 3 generic red, green, and a white for a 6/6 legendary creature Elder Dragon. It's flying, vigilance, and trample. And then Palladium Wars the Ruiner has hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet. So if it resolves, it's probably going to get at least that first hit in. Now I will have to say, so I have to say that ability we talked about when I first saw this card is confusing to me since there's no way to track it. Right, like you just have to go back and be like, "Oh yeah, you did attack me with this." But if you have a game with a lot of weird life total changes, you better track effectively. Don't get got by somebody. I guess I would hope that in a game "Oh, I definitely took 6 from this." But man, what if there's multiple Palladias that you saw? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
They blanket wait. This one...
no, this has hexproof again. So this is a little bit weird. I will say though that I think this card's pretty good. Like the fact that it comes down with hexproof and has it's gonna get in. And it's huge.
This is a throwback to Rift the Awakener almost.
Yeah.
Which was a card from Invasion that was a 6/6. I don't remember if it had trample or not. It probably did. I don't know. It was a 6/6, dragon for same mana cost.
And as I mentioned, I know again maybe this is relevant or not, but you can cast this on turn 4 off of Sarkhan.
Yeah.
This is the payoff, right?
You can. Yeah.
So, and it fixes your colors for you too. The Sarkhan does. So,
right.
I think
mono red Palladium Wars.
Yeah, I mean, but I will say that I think Palladium is pretty good, and is going to be sort of terrifying to see. And this one definitely, this is a dragon that definitely rumbles with Lyra and wins. So.
Oh, for sure.
And we have one more, Dave.
We have the most awkward one.
Yeah.
So it's Ve Victus Asmadi the Dire. So it's legendary Elder Dragon 6/6 flying. When it attacks, for each player, choose target permanent that player controls. Those players sacrifice those permanents. Each player who sacrificed a permanent this way reveals the top card of their library, then puts it onto the battlefield if it's a permanent card. So you have to trigger this?
Yes. You have to trigger it and you have to include yourself.
Yep.
Right. Which can be okay because, you can just say, okay, I'm going to sacrifice this land, whatever, maybe it'll turn into something cool. But, if your opponent doesn't have a permanent, you might turn their land into something cool.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't really know anything about the character, so maybe this is very flavorful.
He destroys things. So he destroys things. I don't know.
He destroys things, but you can't. They can't just print a card that says destroy when this attacks destroy
Destroy
target permanent.
Yeah.
This card is not good.
We thought it'd be cool for Type 4, and then Keller was like, but you have to, like, if this is the only permanent that you have
to sacrifice it.
You have to sacrifice it. So it's not even that great in that format either.
What they did is they printed the real Elder Dragon in Dominaria, and his name is Dirgaz. And that's who's actually the real Elder Dragon in the set. So if you want to play a Jund Dragon, don't play this one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, I don't think this one is, like, completely unplayable. Like, maybe Jund Dragons is a thing. Like, if you're saying, like, okay, there's a dragon deck, maybe Jund Dragons is the thing, because Dirgaz is a pretty good payoff. Like,
yeah, Dirgaz is
an actual good one.
Fine payoff, yeah.
And maybe you want to play this, like, I don't know.
The
format would have to
kill all your Llanowar elves and turn them into something else.
Yeah, the format would have to take a really
dragons.
weird turn for that to be like a good deck, but I don't know, maybe it's there.
All right, so that's it for gold. Honestly, I will say there are some sweet uncommons in gold, but I don't think anything that's really pushing.
They are the signpost, like, limited uncommons.
Yeah, like they're going to be good in those decks, but I don't think anything that's going to really push standard. So then we're moving to our last little bit. We only have a couple cards left, guys. We have artifacts and a couple lands. So we'll start off with Amulet of Safekeeping. This is 2 generic for an artifact. It says whenever you become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. And that also says creature tokens get -1, -0. So this card, if you actually look at the art, it kind of looks like an amulet, but it also kind of looks like a giant middle finger to Storm.
Yeah, weird. If you look really closely, if you turn it to the side a little bit.
If you look at the inscriptions on the artifact, it actually says, screw you, Caleb Shear. I don't know why they wrote that on there.
Yeah,
that seems really rude.
It's kind of rude. No.
In all seriousness, though, like this card actually, current Storm decks, this stops both halves of the plan. Grave Shot, each individual copy targets you. They're not gonna have enough mana to pay for all that. And then if they go to the board plan of emptying the Warrens, well, then they're just 0/1 goblins. So yeah, I don't know why they felt the need to make this. I think it's also, I'm gonna be quite honest, it's kind of an annoying card for standard because like tokens apparently must be super good in Future League, right?
They've been on the record of saying that when they were developing the cards, the scourge of Future League was the Catcher's Monument.
Oh, okay. Makes
like
sense,
that deck was apparently really, really busted.
Told you, Dave.
So
they made like Goblin Chain Whirler. They're like,
yeah,
you know what? This didn't hit creatures originally, but this token deck's too good.
Apparently, that was just the case. That the Catcher's Monument deck that people were coming up with was just too broken.
Yeah, I tried playing a new iteration of that deck at Dominaria's release, and it was fine, but it wasn't great. So, here we are.
Yeah, I will say, like, yes, it looks like it's specifically targeted for Storm, but don't lean on this as like, oh yeah, this is just going to beat Storm, because they still play the bounce spells. They can get around it.
No, they definitely can.
They're going to bring in their wipe aways and possibly their artifact removal spells. So you can't hide behind this thing forever. But it does, as long as it's out, then they can't really kill you.
Yeah.
It also is this? No, it doesn't beat Ironworks. I was thinking of something else. Yeah, no.
No, it certainly doesn't.
Ironworks can get infinite.
Yeah, they can get all the mana they want. Yeah. So, it kind of makes it harder for Adnons to go off because they have to have all 4. Then they can't use any of their Semi-Spirit Guides.
It's kind of the same thing with what Damping Sphere.
Yeah, that's true.
They both are similar kind of artifact hate cards that still don't completely shut down the decks they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
But they're tools that you can use to fight. This one is a little bit more narrow in application.
Yeah. It's nice because there are a lot of cards that hit Storm, but not all of them are colorless necessarily. So this is kind of nice for decks that don't have anything for Storm, and they can now gain an option.
Yeah, when I was still playing the red-green Eldrazi deck in Modern, I was happy to have Damping Sphere because it was a card that you can, Ancient Stirrings for, that gave you a little bit of help against Storm because otherwise you really don't have a whole lot for it. But yeah, just add this to the list of potential cards like that you could have. All right.
Next up, The Crucible.
Crucible of Worlds.
By Arthur Miller. No, wrong Crucible.
A much-needed reprint. Crucible of Worlds, this was... A lot of people might not know, but this was a fan-made card?
Yeah, you make the card.
You make the card?
the second you make the card.
Yeah. So it's a 3 generic artifact. You may play in land cards from your graveyard. So usually you'll see this in modern sideboards to use with Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter, things like that to, be pretty good against things like Tron or Valakut, things like that. Obviously, it's kind of dirtily in that format. You see it in Vintage with like Strip Mine, which is a little bit better. Strip Mine Wasteland. So yeah, pretty powerful card. Was super expensive. It was like $50+.
Yep.
Probably be less than that now, but
yeah, it's probably gonna go. It's one of those cards that just like needed a reprinting and is like, oh, okay, now it's like a reasonable price for a little bit, and then eventually will go up. So if it's a card that you want for Modern, or further back, pick it up.
Yeah, you can also just play fetch lands and hit your land drop every turn.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Also is pretty casual. Like a lot of casual players like this kind of effect as well. So that I think that fed into the price on what it was. So
it's also just like being that you make the card. It's also like iconic. It's just iconic. Like people want it.
Yeah, and they've kept that original art as well.
That art is
so
sweet.
Cool.
Out of all those, you make the cards. This has been the best one.
Oh yeah, by far.
You take that back. Mr. Baby Cakes was sweet.
Mr. Baby Cakes.
That was Forgotten Agent's name before I got printed. It was Mr. Baby Cakes.
What was the other one? Oh, Waste Not.
Waste Not.
And then we also had was it Vanish into was it Vanish to Memory?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
The 2 generic blue white.
Yeah.
Like the worst art of all time.
Yeah. Next up, we have Desecrated Tomb, 3 generic for an artifact. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. I like this card just because the effect is so unique, and I think it's such a flavorful way to express it. And I think if there's, we already have some cards, like, I'm trying to think what's the 1 mana, can exile.
Scrap Heap Scrounger?
No, can exile. Condemnation.
That Crooked Condemnation. Like, you can do that. Scrap Heap Scrounger does trigger it. Godfarrow's Gift triggers it. I was kind of hoping this would also mean we were going to get like a Scavenger Ooze reprint, but it didn't because that also triggers it. But I think like I don't know what deck actively wants this specifically, but I think it's pretty powerful if you're operating a deck on that access. Like even something like Dredge, for example, like that has like Bloodghast coming back and these things coming back. Like they're not in the market for a 3-mana artifact more than likely, but it does create a steady stream of evasive threats, which I think is interesting.
I think this card's bad.
Okay.
And the reason why is it doesn't do anything on its own.
That's true.
So
100% true.
So you have this card that doesn't do anything. You need to have creatures in your graveyard. Then you need to have ways to get creatures out of your graveyard. And then even then, like, if you're exiling multiples, you still only get the 1 bat. So it's... I mean, I guess, like, if you get it going, I could see it, but...
So
it takes a lot for this thing to get going.
So you play it in your deck that has Stitcher Supplier, and then when you ultimate when you're -3 your Liliana, then each zombie you cast out of your graveyard, you also bring a bat friend with it. Mm-hmm. You probably don't need the bat friends. Everything else is probably very good.
You could use the double black 3/2 zombie too, and you can exile.
There you go.
Yeah.
This card probably doesn't see any play, but I think it's pretty interesting and fairly. It's an interesting effect to remember exists.
If this made 2/2 zombies, I would like it a lot more.
Yeah.
I just think this is like the exact type of card that like never sees constructive play.
Yeah,
it's just too much setup.
That's probably true.
Like not enough payoff.
That's probably true.
Which I think it's a cool card for sure, but I just don't think it's that good.
All right, next up. Dragon's Horde.
I do want to give a quick shout out to Fountain of Renewal. Fountain of Renewal,
which comes after.
Is it?
Dragon's
Horde.
Dang it.
You can cover that one.
D
after.
Okay. Dragon's Horde.
D before F, my friend.
Manolith.
Dragon's Horde. Manolith Plus. This is 3 generic artifact. When it enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on it. You can tap it and remove a gold counter to draw a card. It also has tap. Add 1 mana of any color. Cool. It's cool rare.
It's not when it enters the battlefield. It's whenever a dragon enters the battlefield.
Even worse.
I mean,
Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, okay, yeah, put a gold.
Yeah, so the idea is like it ramps you into your dragons, and then it pays you for every time you get a dragon.
Yeah.
Again, if you're in the dragon deck, you're looking for a piece of ramp.
You really want this dragon deck to have it.
They want. I didn't make the card.
I guess yeah, we're not making the cards. We're just talking about them. But
I don't know if this sees play or not. But again, if you're in the market for this, this is a pretty cool effect because it's a recharge every time.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely hurts that it has to come into play, not just when you cast it. So that's a little rough. But
so like the only, correct me if I'm wrong here, the only 3 mana rock that's ever really seen constructed play is Coalition Relic.
Dark Sealing it saw play the last time it was printed.
Did it?
Yes.
You still have what? Did the lantern? The lantern makes all your
Chromatic Lantern also saw much play.
Oh, it definitely saw play because it probably saw play in whatchamacallit.
Yeah, they got played in like
pillow
nonsense decks.
The pillow
yeah.
the
I played it in standard.
Maze's End deck. Maybe.
Yeah, like I said, nonsense decks.
All right, now.
You say that now, but when they reprint Maze's End and all the guild gates,
this
and
one's
then you
a
can
lot,
scape shift into it. Yeah, they'll see who's.
This one's a lot more. This
One's
a lot more narrow than like those other ones.
I mean, it's as narrow as a 3 mana rock can be. So I'm not saying it's amazing, but I think like having any amount of payoff if you're in that deck is kind of interesting. So that's all. Sorry, I'll stop talking about any cards. We're not allowed to be fans of Magic at all here.
I'm just being honest, man. I'm trying to let him know. Don't play this card.
Jarrah Curmudgeon. God, I wish you were on the show.
I said Nicol Bolas was good. Wow. Fine, I'm not coming back.
Wishes do come true.
That's so funny. That's a real funny joke. Anyway,
Fountain of Renewal. I like this card better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about a Johnny's Pride mate? Boom.
So it's
That's fair, I suppose.
it's a 1 mana artifact. It says at the beginning of your upkeep you gain a life, and then you can pay 3 and sacrifice and draw a card. With artifact synergies that are going on, this is like it's an artifact that it kind of doesn't do anything. It's a little bit of a even like a slow trip, but this is something that you can cast early against like red if you aren't necessarily in a deck that can fight against them and gain a little bit of advantage and eventually like cash it in for something. And if there is a deck that wants like early artifacts, like this is something that you can do. Maybe it'll become more relevant after Kaladesh leaves, but it's I don't know. It's something.
So I don't even necessarily like think of this as a red hate card. I mean, it does a little bit of work.
It may not be.
I feel like the red decks now are just doing damage in chunks. Like
yeah,
they're just chunking
I don't
them
think
out.
this is good enough for that reason.
But if you are something like an improvised deck, maybe this is better than something like one of those random implements.
Yeah,
maybe it's something like that. Maybe you will play it alongside the new Tezzeret, or like the creature that makes a thing into a 5/5. I don't know. Like it's just a cheap artifact that
I think you'd rather play the Compass then. It's already seen play in those Antiquities War decks. Because you gain 3 life when it comes into play, and it fixes your mana.
Yeah.
Like it takes this card 3 turns to catch up. Yes, you get to draw a card eventually, but I don't see it for this card. Maybe post rotation when we lose a lot of artifacts and get desperate. But
after
I'm
Kaladesh
really happy anytime. I don't care what deck I'm playing. Anytime my opponent casts this card, and we're very happy that they use the card slot in their deck for it to be this one.
At least this one gives you a card back.
Yeah, but it's so much mana.
It is a lot of mana.
Like you have to pay. This is 4 mana to draw a card, and I guess across that time you could gain a life.
I don't think it's necessarily good, but I could see situations where you'd want to play a card like this.
I'm gonna be very honest. There's a lot more situations I have wanted a Manolith in my deck than this ever.
Okay.
And my Manolith will sometimes draw a card, and I won't have to sack it.
All right.
Anyways,
whatever floats your boat, man.
Manolith too. Oh, also Manolith is actually in this set.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but whatever.
That's like some alpha set design right there. It's just like, well, see, like the rarity, you get extra stuff when it's rare instead of just being common.
We'll talk about Millstone does get that down. Is this the first time it's been uncommon, or is it get downshifted before?
It's been downshifted.
Okay,
it actually started as uncommon, then was a rare for a while.
Oh,
and they printed it. I think the last time it was printed, it was uncommon.
Also want to mention quickly Suspicious Bookcase, just for being awesome.
Yeah, it's good flavor.
Also, because what it said leads to the road passage, right? Which is great. But our next actual card.
Do we have to mention Meteor Golem? Where did he come from?
Yeah, what planet?
Space.
Space. Next card is Detection Tower. This is a land taps to add a colorless mana, and then it has an ability: pay 1, tap it. Until end of turn, your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the target of spells and ability you control as though they didn't have hexproof. Now, one thing I want to check. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I guess I want to figure it out. But this is Mirrodin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the contested war zone. That's the same ground. So this is what the Phyrexians are doing now. They just got like detection towers for the Mirrans.
Like we don't want any hexproof creatures.
I'm gonna believe that's Koth in that picture. I'm gonna believe
Kothwatch 2018.
Kothwatch 2018.
Probably not.
No, it's not. But now, so I will say they've been trying to print cards like this for a while that let you interact with hexproof things. There you go, Dave. That's how you kill Vinemare.
Yeah. They don't want no Vine Mares on Mirrodin. Get out of my face.
But I do think that this card is worth mentioning only because there are a couple decks in Modern that might be like specifically those that like I think like Eldrazi-tron, for example, that plays a bunch of maps that can get this card, and then plays like Walking Ballistas and stuff that like it may actually want this card to interact with hexproof creatures. So I think that's where this would see play as like a one of and decks that can go get it and then use it for those kind of purposes.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I agree with that. Like I think it's such a narrow card.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think it is important to point out as well that your opponent loses hexproof. So if they have like the Leyline Sanctity in play, you can get around that. So I think that's different.
In standard randomly, so that's the thing.
Yeah, so that gives a little bit more utility, though it is still pretty narrow. Yeah. So like, you're not going to want to like put 4 of these in your sideboard or whatever.
Your burn could, right?
But like in a deck, like you said, like with maps or Sylvan Scries, like maybe I don't even know if Tron really cares. Like they just kill bulls anyway, right? But if you have a way to search it out somehow, then it might be worth like 1 sideboard slot.
Exactly,
because it does enough. Maybe.
That's fair. All right, we have one more. So we should say we didn't get a rare land cycle in this set. I know that was Morgan. We just got the tap lands at common, and we got all of them, right? We got all 10.
Yes.
Right. So your Forsaken Sanctuary, your Highland Lake,
and the interesting thing with them is that if they show up in your pack, they replace your basic land. They do not replace a common,
which is interesting. So add some fixing to the format.
Correct.
But last
which
card
also means that you're going to be passing your basic lands when you draft this set.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you don't, then all the packs will be messed up.
Technically, you're supposed to anyway, right?
Correct. No, you were actually instructed to take out lands and tokens.
You could. If everyone kept their basic land, you could. It wouldn't affect like your structure because in Magic Online you draft. You don't. Right. Yeah. So, but for specifically this set, you will be passing your basic land. So hopefully you don't get attached to them. But they're nothing special.
Yeah, who cares?
Okay. Reliquary Tower.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. So this is a reprint. This is a commander card for the most part.
Between a $5 and $10 card for a while too.
Yeah, they even made an F&M promo,
which is also super pricey. I sold one recently.
Still have one. Reliquary Tower is a land. It says you have no maximum hand size, and it taps to add a colorless. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Maybe Brawl playable.
I think it's standard playable. I think
for
that
like blue white or something.
Yeah, blue white. So like the blue white decks, one of the ways to beat them is once they have a Teferi in play. If you can't beat the Teferi, is to let them just draw until they're discarding for turn essentially, because that's the only way you can overload their threats. Like that is a common play pattern against that deck.
Yeah.
So once you have one Reliquary Tower in play, well then that's no longer a play pattern against that deck.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. Is like you really only need to play like one.
Yeah, just one.
Though I guess it gets hit by
Field of Ruin,
whatever. But
I mean, again, I don't think it's like a huge impact on the format, but I think like you could play this as a one of and be rewarded for it pretty handedly. So
yeah, in multiples they don't really do a whole lot.
No.
But yeah.
I mean, I've heard before that 2 towers is pretty good, but
2 towers is better than 1.
And Dave, you give a point with Brawl. Like this.
Oh, absolutely.
With M19 entering the standard format. Brawl starts to look a lot more like just straight commander.
Yeah.
You have like
Elder Dragons.
you have Elder Dragons. You have Crucible of Worlds. You have Rupture Spire, which is another land. It's an uncommon land, but it's a multicolor land, which is it's a staple in any commander deck. It's just like having a land that produces any color, even with the drawback that it has on it. So there are a lot of things that enter into the format that definitely help Brawl sort of develop into a much of a wider format and much of a commander like than it was previously.
Yeah, I remember when we first started talking about Brawl, I remember I was like, yeah, this format is definitely not my jam. Then I played it a little bit and I was like, yeah, it's kind of my jam. I definitely have a Brawl deck, so
Yeah, you do.
Don't get to play it that often, but I have one. I have all the cards. I
actually
acquired
this week. I will play Brawl with you.
I acquired cards to make a Brawl deck, so
there you go.
Here we go. Scarab God for life. Nobody likes playing against it.
But yeah, that's M19, guys. We went through everything. And what do we think of it? Does it just feels like a core set to me? There's some notable like things that show up. You know, you're seeing Crucible and Scapeshift in there are definitely interesting. And I think like good on Wizards. I think I wish they went a little bit harder on the modern reprints and put some other stuff in there, but getting two pretty pricey modern cards into a core set is pretty cool, and they should be fairly benign in standard, but very impactful price wise for those cards, which I think is cool. We do get some new toys for standard. I don't know if we will really see the full impact of them until we hit rotation, though. But I think it's very much feels like a core set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think this is a ton of exciting things. I like Nicol Bolas is pretty cool. Hopefully he's not too oppressive.
I doubt it. It's hard for a 3-color card to be too oppressive.
Right.
A 3-color legendary card.
Yeah, that's true too.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. No land cycle's kind of a bummer. I do like that modern. Seemed like they definitely had modern in mind when making this. Like cards like Alpine Moon is like a card that's like not really going to do a whole lot in standard, but could see some modern play. Or like the black exile a colorless creature spell is like clearly had modern in mind, or older formats.
And even to be fair, like with Alpine Moon, we never know what they're going to print next in standard. So a lot of this stuff could be plants, could be things that we might need as tools in the future.
Maybe they're gonna reprint Valakut and they're like, "Oh, we need to have a way to."
I don't think they'll. I don't think they'll obviously be that wild. If Valakut was going to show up anywhere, it would have to be here because we're again. I don't even know if Valakut still exists. To be fair, on
it still exists.
I guess we have tiers. We have the tiers of Valakut.
It's not a legend though, right? So it could just be any mountain.
I don't think that's how it works.
I think like it's not a legend. It's Valakut's a mountain range.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe not all of it.
No, whatever.
Went away.
The core set is dead. Long with the core set. I think it's pretty good, and I agree. There's nothing super exciting about this, but it's sort of refreshing to know that we just have just going through the comments. You mentioned and laughed about Smelt, Duress, Shock, Lightning Strike, Essence Scatter. Like just having a place where these cards are going to be here. Heck, again, even the lands, right? Like the only reason all those tap lands. So we had the 5 in Rivals. But the allied ones we had them legal because they were sitting on all the Planeswalker decks, right?
Yeah.
So like if Magic is supposed to communicate effectively like what you can do with mana bases, then like by putting all of these as commons in the core set, then it frees up the confusion a little bit. Like, oh, these are here. Also, we got the better Stone Quarry art, so I appreciate that.
That's true.
So because I literally the last time I was going to play a Stone Quarry, I wanted to get a Planeswalker deck just so I could play the better art. Which is sad, but that's who I am. So I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad that they tied some story stuff to it, and I'm interested to see if any of the stuff actually does change standard at all.
Yeah.
Before rotation. It'll definitely affect post-rotation.
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, I think like the cards that we noted as being like the 2 best cards in the set will definitely have an immediate impact of some persuasion, and I think... the Chromium, I think with Esper Control being a viable deck that just slots right into your sideboard,
so.
Or wherever.
I'm much happier about seeing a card like Chromium be like the finisher for Control than like something like the Scarab God, for example.
Yeah.
Like, it may be more difficult to get rid of, but once you get rid of it, it's dead.
It's gone.
It doesn't. Oh, look! It returned to your hand again.
But you just play them both, and then you can have, yeah,
you could do that for a while.
Then you can bring back Chromium.
Then you can make 4 Chromiums the way God intended.
Yep.
The Scarab God intended.
So, technically, Chromium feeds the Scarab God with its activated ability. So, like,
shut up. End the cast.
That's a fun interaction, guys.
End the cast.
Welcome to Standard. Anyway, and that's free, and you can activate as many times as you want. In response.
Do you remember what I said in the cast?
Yeah, I know.
That means hit the eject button. Yeah, we record
it's
on
only
tape.
It's only 3 months. It's only 3 months. That's like a really narrow interaction. Let's be real. But yeah, so that's our set review. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do you want to obviously shout out to our Twitter if you want to reach out to us. We have a Twitter. It's your Instep when you ask. It's at your Instep. We also have email address at yourinstep@gmail.com or Facebook. Just do a quick search for at your Instep. We pop right up. While you're on Facebook, take a look at our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. You can do a quick search for them, and they show up as well. And they can follow them and check out some of the events they have. Obviously, pre-release will be going on, so definitely be sure to. I guess by the time you're hearing this, pre-release will probably already be over, unfortunately. But they definitely have events coming up in the future. Is that true? Is that not true? I can't remember.
If part 1 comes out,
no, it's not true, right?
It's not true. It'll be that coming weekend if we.
Yeah, I see. I'm so used to us not having.
No, we should have both.
Spoiler until later.
Also, look for us to do a box opening.
Yeah, for sure.
For Comic Town
for M19,
and possibly a giveaway coming your way soon.
Oh yeah, that too as well. But yeah, be sure to check out their Facebook. We also do have a Patreon if you want to become a patron of our lovely podcast. You can check that giveaways. Out. That's true as well. It's patreon.com/@yourinstep. And if you're listening to us via iTunes, feel free to leave us a review or a rating. It really helps with visibility. If you're listening to us via MTGcast, be sure to check out some of the lovely shows they have on there. But that is going to be everything for us this week. We'll catch you next time. You have a great one. Bye.